The camera rises above a frozen forest in North America, sweeping through endless trees buried beneath a storm of white. The wind howls like a wounded beast, driving snow sideways across the darkness. Thunder flashes in the far distance, briefly revealing a land that seems abandoned by warmth, by mercy, by time itself. In that violent night, a pair of blue-gray eyes suddenly opens. A Viking warrior stares into the chaos, his pupils reflecting fire and falling bodies, shadows twisting in the flames. His breath is heavy, steaming in the cold. Each exhale a fragile reminder that he is still alive in a world determined to erase him. The silence inside his mind is broken only by the distant roar of battle and the cracking of frozen branches beneath unseen feet. Through the swirling snow, he charges forward. Leather armor creaks beneath layers of fur as he runs, iron axe clenched in his gloved hand. His boots crush ice and earth alike, each step driven by survival rather than glory. The storm blinds him, yet he does not slow. War has stripped him of hesitation long ago. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cuts through the wind. An arrow from a Native American bow slams into his wooden shield. The impact splits the grain of the wood, sending splinters flying. The shield trembles violently, as if recoiling from pain. For a brief heartbeat, time seems to pause. Then, the world erupts again. Fire and snow collide. Vikings and native warriors crash into each other like living storms, bodies surging and collapsing in waves. Steel meets bone, stone meets flesh. Figures fall, vanish beneath boots and drifting snow. The battlefield becomes a blurred painting of movement and destruction. A single drop of blood falls onto the white ground. It spreads slowly across the snow, a quiet red stain in a world gone mad, whispering the cost of every heartbeat that dares to continue. A native warrior fills the frame. His face is painted in red and black, lines carved like ancient symbols of rage and mourning. His eyes burn with a wild, desperate fire. His mouth opens in a silent scream, swallowed by the storm, yet louder than any sound. Around them, nature itself flees. A pack of wolves and startled deer burst through the battlefield, racing past warriors and corpses alike. Their panic carries no allegiance, only instinct. In their eyes, this is not a war, it is a plague. From above, the full horror reveals itself. Fire burns in scattered patches across the frozen forest, while snow, trees, humans, and animals dissolve into a single chaotic mass. No side is visible, no victory is imaginable, only survival hanging by a fragile thread. Then, suddenly, silence. The screen falls into darkness for half a second. The roar vanishes. Only the cold wind remains, whispering like a ghost through the void. And from that silence, the story rewinds. Mist rolls over the dark shores of Newfoundland. Waves crash against black rocks beneath a pale, heavy sky. The sea breathes slowly, as if unaware of the blood it will soon witness. A Viking longship glides toward the coast, its sails swollen by the wind. The wooden beast cuts through gray waters with quiet determination, carrying men who believe fate itself has called them here. Leather boots step onto wet sand. Water splashes upward as the first Viking touches the unknown land. A gloved hand reaches down, pressing into the cold soil, feeling its weight, its promise, its threat. From deep within the forest, Native American figures stand in silence, watching. Their bodies remain still, but their eyes move, tracking every gesture, every breath of the newcomers. Leaves tremble, branches whisper. Across the trees, two gazes finally meet, Viking and native, separated by shadows and fear. Bound by destiny, neither yet understands. And somewhere above them, unseen, the storm waits to return. From the rocks above the frozen land, a black bear rises into view, massive and ancient, its breath steaming in the cold air. It stands still, nose lifted, tasting something unfamiliar in the wind: iron, smoke, and fear. For a moment, beast and land seem to hold their breath together. The bear growls softly, fur bristling along its spine, then slowly retreats into the trees, as if surrendering the forest to forces far crueler than hunger. Not far from there, the Vikings begin to shape their presence. Wooden houses rise against the snow, rough beams locked together with iron nails. Smoke coils upward from newly lit fires, painting gray lines into the pale sky. The village is born not from peace, but from stubborn will, a fragile island of warmth carved from frozen wilderness. Along the river, another world exists. Native American lodges of hide and wood stand quietly beside flowing water. Thin columns of smoke drift upward like whispered prayers. Children run along the riverbank, laughter briefly breaking the stillness, unaware that their world has already been marked by strangers beyond the trees. The land now carries two heartbeats, and between them, tension grows like ice forming beneath still water. In the white depths of the forest, a Viking hunter raises his spear. His breath slows, his muscles tighten. With a sudden motion, the spear flies, piercing the side of a deer. The animal stumbles, collapses into the snow, its body shuddering as life fades from its wide, dark eyes. Nearby, unseen by the hunter, a native warrior watches. His gaze hardens as he steps closer to the fallen deer, fingers tightening around his bow. To him, this animal is not merely prey, it is a gift of the land, taken without permission. Anger flickers across his face like fire beneath stone. Footprints appear near the native village. Heavy Viking boots have pressed deep into the wet earth, crossing paths that once belonged only to wind and water. The marks remain, silent but loud with meaning. Sensing danger, native families begin to move their children into the lodges. Small hands are pulled gently but urgently away from open ground. Mothers glance toward the forest, eyes filled with questions they dare not ask aloud. Elsewhere, steel bites into bark. Viking axes strike ancient trees, splitting trunks that have stood longer than memory. Each fall sends birds screaming into the sky, wings flashing against the gray. The forest itself seems to recoil with every blow. From within the shadows, native bows rise. Arrows are fitted to strings, hands steady but hearts burning. A single arrow leaves the bow, slicing through the air, not as a declaration of war, but as its first breath. The arrow slams into a Viking shield. Wood shudders. The warrior staggers, staring at the shaft trembling inches from his chest. For a brief second, both sides freeze, caught between regret and inevitability. Then the forest explodes. War surges through the snow as both sides charge forward, boots crushing ice, voices torn apart by wind and fury. The quiet wilderness becomes a battlefield once more. A Viking's axe crashes against a native spear, metal and wood screaming in protest. Sparks burst into the falling snow like dying stars. A horse rears wildly, throwing its rider into the frozen ground before fleeing into the trees. A native warrior stumbles, wounded, blood flowing through the paint on his face, blurring the symbols of his people. His fingers loosen, releasing his bow. It rolls slowly across the snow, coming to rest beside footprints that will soon vanish. And still, the chaos grows. Wolves creep into the edges of the battle, snarling as they circle fallen bodies, drawn by blood and death. Fire spreads through the forest, devouring branches and shadows alike, black smoke rising into the pale sky. Among the flames and screams, a Viking pauses. Mud and blood cover his face, his eyes hollow, emptied by what he has done and what he can no longer undo. Across the clearing, a native warrior drags the body of a loved one through the snow, hair tangled in the wind, grief carved into every step. The battlefield lies broken beneath them, human and animal, fire and ice, all tangled in ruin. And above it all, the wind continues to whisper, as if asking a question no one can answer. The battle does not end with victory. It ends with silence. From above, the forest lies broken beneath a thin veil of smoke. Once living trees stand blackened, their branches twisted like the fingers of the dead. Fire still breathes faintly in scattered embers, glowing weakly against the endless white of the snow. The war has passed, but its shadow remains. In the frozen earth, a shattered arrow stands crooked, half buried in ash and ice. Its shaft trembles slightly in the cold wind, as if remembering the hand that once guided it, the heartbeat that once followed its path. Now it points nowhere, a weapon without purpose in a world that has lost direction. The land is quiet, too quiet. A native child stands alone at the edge of the old battlefield. His small figure is swallowed by the vastness around him. Charred trees, broken weapons, frozen ground stained with dark scars. He does not cry. He does not move. His eyes carry questions far heavier than his years should bear. Slowly he kneels. His hand reaches down and touches the snow. It is no longer pure white. Gray ash mixes with melting frost beneath his fingers, cold and damp, like the tears he refuses to release. The child closes his eyes, feeling the earth, as if listening to a story too painful to speak aloud. Not far away, the Vikings prepare to leave. Their long ships rest along the shore, rocking gently against dark waters. Warriors move in silence, carrying what remains of their belongings, their faces hardened not by triumph, but by exhaustion. No songs rise into the air, no cheers echo across the sea. They are not conquerors, they are survivors. The ships slowly pull away from the land, sails catching the pale wind. The shoreline fades into mist, the forest dissolving into a gray memory behind them. With every passing moment, the world they fought for slips further from reach, like a dream fading at dawn. Above it all, the camera rises once more. The forest, the sea, the snow, all stretch endlessly beneath the sky. No borders remain, no flags, no names. Only nature, vast and indifferent, reclaiming what was torn from it by less indifferent hands. The wind sweeps through tall, dry grass where no footsteps remain. It bends gently, whispering through hollow stems, carrying stories no one will ever fully hear. There are no voices now, no war cries, no mourning songs. Only the rhythm of the earth, slow and eternal. The screen begins to darken. The image fades, but the sound of the wind lingers, low and steady, like a distant drum echoing through time. Each beat softer than the last, until even the echo disappears. And in that final silence, one truth remains. The war between the Vikings and the native people did not truly belong to either of them. It belonged to the land, and the cost was written not only in blood, but in everything that was lost when humans forgot they were guests upon the earth.